I'd like to welcome everyone to the June meeting of the Health and Education Committee. Yes, sir. First, let me read to everyone. We're going to need a motion to conduct this meeting electronically. I can speak louder if you want. I think it's on.
Yeah, it's on.
Okay. This meeting of the Health and Education Committee is being conducted electronically pursuant to Governor Bill Lee's Executive Order 16. I would ask for a motion that conducting the meeting electronically is necessary to protect the public health, safety, and welfare in light of the coronavirus.
So move.
Thank you. Commissioner Gurley.
Second.
Commissioner Blair. You call the roll for us.
Commissioner Blair,
Yes.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Ely,
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips, Commissioner Phillips. It says two, but I don't see him. And Chairman Allen.
Yes, thank you. All right, our first order of business is to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Madam Chairman, I've reviewed the minutes from our last meeting, which actually was our joint meeting, and I find them in order and without correction. I move for their approval.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Very good, thank you. You call the roll for that?
Commissioner Cook. Yes. Commissioner Ely. Yes. Commissioner Gammon.
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley.
Yes.
Commissioner Blair.
Yes.
Chairman Allen.
Yes, very good, thank you. All right, for our Health Department report, LaShann Dixon is going to share with us. As she's coming up, we will all just sort of mentally, we're not going to sing, but we're going to wish Dana Garrett a happy birthday. So we're glad she's off today. And then also Dr. McDonald is going to be joining us as well. So thank you, LaShann.
Mayor Ketron, Madam Chairman, and Commissioners of the Committee, good evening. I'm LaShann Dixon, and I serve as the Assistant County Director for the Rutherford County Health Department. I will be giving the Health Department report, budget amendment request on behalf of Director Dana Garrett. Also, I have with me today Dr. Lori McDonald, our Medical Director, who also serves as the county's medical examiner, should you have any COVID-19 questions. Please take a look at the May report for the community health outreach. Our three columns labeled Protect, Promote, and Improve have not changed much over the past 2 months as our staff continues to work hard to ensure that we test, provide education, guidance to help mitigate the spread of COVID-19 in our county. We continue to offer COVID-19 testing at our Murfreesboro site located at 100 West Burton Street at no charge to anyone who wishes to be tested Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30 p.m. We do ask that if you want to be tested, that you call us at 615-898-7880 or 615-849-0347 before you arrive so that we can give you a time so that you don't have to wait long, as we completed 147 tests by 11 a.m. this morning. As a reminder, tests are free without restrictions. Currently, we're doing around 250 tests per day at our Murfreesboro site for COVID-19 with the nasopharyngeal swabs, and continue to work with all of our public health investigations that goes along with our positive cases to contact them 7 days a week. As of June the 11th, we have resumed distribution of our cloth face masks, which are free and available at both health departments for the public. If someone would like to pick up a cloth mask, they can drive to either of our sites Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30, to receive one of them for themselves and for their family. Additionally, we have given some out to our community partners to ensure everyone that wants a cloth mask has one. The following day, on June the 12th, 2020, the Tennessee Department of Health provided a more comprehensive information about the COVID-19 pandemic by updating data metrics to include both confirmed and probable cases, confirmed and probable deaths, consistent with the Center for Disease Control, Prevention, Surveillance definition. Therefore, our daily counts do look a little different, and the data demographics and outcome reports now both include confirmed and probable cases. As you are aware, our confirmed case is someone who is tested positive for the virus that's caused by COVID-19. A probable case is someone who may have tested negative based on a number of tests or may not have been tested at all, but has illnesses consistent with COVID-19 or may have other risk factors. So for example, If a person is a close contact of a COVID-19 case and has clinically compatible illnesses, this person meets the criteria to be a probable case. Or if a healthcare provider diagnoses a person with clinically compatible illness with COVID-19, regardless of their test results, this person also meets the probable case criteria. Additionally, if a person dies and the healthcare provider that signs their death certificate, possibly Dr. Mack here, determines that COVID-19 disease was their cause of death or significant conditioning contributing to the death, then that person also meets the probable case criteria and will be considered a probable death. For both confirmed and probable cases, we as the public health officials take the same actions. All cases confirmed and probable undergo a case investigation, contact tracing interview, and are asked to isolate per the CDC, Tennessee Department of Health guidance. Their contacts are then also contacted and asked to quarantine for at least 14 days. As of 2 p.m. today, we have a rough estimate of 1,569 active cases, which is the number of positive cases subtracted by those cases that have recovered. The COOP, or the Continuity of Operations Plans, for both health departments has officially been lifted for medical and administrative services. Our goal is not to return to normal practices by July 1st, but the goal is to ensure that every patient that desires our services will be able to receive them in some manner using certain perimeters. As we begin to lift the COOP, the following perimeters will be in place at both health departments. All patients, visitors, and staff at the health department will be screened for symptoms of or concern for COVID-19 and will be asked to wear a face mask at all times. We are continually to make sure that we are cleaning our high surface areas on an hourly basis. The number of patients will be limited, process modified in order to accommodate all of our patients and visitors will be made to allow proper social distancing in common areas. And finally, patient care will continue to be delivered to patients in alternative manners when possible, such as telephone, telemedicine, and drive-up care during the pandemic. As always, we will continue to use the best evidence and guidance available to help support our staff to ensure that our patients receive health care at the health department. If there is no questions about the COOP, I will move forward with a budget amendment request.
Are there any questions for LaShannon on the Health Department report? All right, I'll entertain a motion to accept the report.
Second.
Give us a roll call.
Commissioner Ely? Yes. Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Cook? Yes. Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Chairman Allen?
Yes. And LaShannon, before we move on to the budget amendment, we have Dr. McDonald up here. I'm sure you've probably got some insights and information you'd want to share with us on what's going on with COVID. We're all ears. Anything you'd like to share?
The thing that we're seeing most is an increase in the number of people presenting for testing, and just not scientifically, just giving you my gut feeling, Monday after the weekend seems to be one of our biggest days. And today,
Dr. McDonald, can you step closer to the microphone? Just, yeah, thanks.
And today was a day where we saw on average 100 more tests than we normally do. To me, I test a lot out there, and I don't see a lot of people that I think are sick, but clearly there's a lot of people that don't appear sick, which is always very concerning. So pretty much we just are going to keep continuing to do what we're doing, track down those contacts, which is very, very tedious, and the people that do that, they deserve a medal because that is very difficult to do. We have a lot of different languages spoken, which has been somewhat challenging, but we're getting through it. And for the most part, people are coming not just from this county, but other counties to come and be tested as well. So we're just going to carry on until we get to the point where we seem to have things in hand. Does anybody have any specific questions?
Yes, ma'am. How are hospitalizations running? Pretty well level, or?
That's also had a little blip in the graph. There's more hospitalizations. I mean, we're not in any situation where there's an ICU bed shortage or whatever, but we're certainly seeing an uptick, that's for sure.
Commissioner Blair?
Back in the spring when this first occurred, there was hope that when we hit the heat of June, July, and August, that it may have the same effect on the virus that it has on the flu each year. Is there any indication that that's occurring at all?
From what I've read, not at all. I mean, some of it is a balance between people are out a lot more, mingling a lot more. We've had a lot more probably not planned upon demonstrations where people in the heat at the moment probably don't wear the appropriate PPE or masks at all. So that may contribute, but this virus is so new to us, we just don't know how it plays out. I mean, people ask me all the time a million questions. I think I say 10 times an hour. We don't have that data. We don't know. We just don't know enough yet. Based on seasonal flu and how we've always seen that, the winter months tend to be our worst months, and that's the thing that we're a bit scared about, to be truthful.
Any more questions for Dr. McDonald? Thank you so much for being here tonight. It's such an important issue. Really appreciate you spending your time with us. Thank you. Jen has a budget amendment, if you want to go ahead and proceed with that.
Yes, so we request to amend the Rutherford County Health Department budget to decrease $7,100 from 55110,355 repair and maintenance building to increase 55110,307 communications, as additional appropriation is needed for communications, as it is running more than the prior year. Currently, we're getting anywhere from about 200 to 400 calls within a 15-minute period, which is very taxing on our phone system. So this request is not asking for any additional funds, but the funding was found within the existing budget. So, Commissioner Chairman Allen, I'll turn the floor back over to you for the vote.
Thank you. Mr. Gurley?
Move to approve, and I would just like to say great job on the reports.
Yes, great
Thank
job.
you.
Thank you.
Second.
Call the roll for us.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Blair,
Yes.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Ely. Yes. Chairman Allen.
Yes, thank you. Thank you all so much. Appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you.
And Mayor Ketchern, Commissioner Allen, and the committee, I just want to thank you all for your dedication and hard work to servicing our community here in Rutherford County, and also your support of the Rutherford County Health Department. I'm a firm believer of what Helen Keller said best: alone we can do so little, but together we can do so much. So thank you all so much for your continued support.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, next on the agenda is community care. The report, their minutes are on your iPad, and then I believe we also may have a resolution of appreciation for them.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, we do. And we actually had been approached by the new director to give them a bonus, and we wanted to wait until things got settled down a little bit. And we did receive a nice check from the federal government that came in that we're able to use. It's kind of the PPP loan that we were able to take out, which really helped us make our payroll. But in the meantime, until we can wait and see what our finance director is sitting in the back, he advised that we wait until about September and evaluate if we have any extra money, and then we definitely want to do something for them, and that's what we'll do if appropriate. But right now, we'd like to say thank you.
Yes.
Through a resolution.
All right, that resolution's on your iPad as well, and I spoke with Rachel before the meeting. We're probably just going to let Pettis include this as part of the steering committee report, so just want to have it there for your information. And the community care is always a little bit of a loose report, but I will still accept a motion to accept their report. Thank you.
Second.
Call the roll for us.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Ely,
Yes.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Blair,
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley,
Yes.
Chairman Allen.
Yes, thank you. Next is the special projects report. Looks like Lisa's filling in for Miss Jolly tonight. That report is also on your iPad, and we've also had that for a few days.
It's a very short report. I think there were 3 payments that were made from the last report to this one, so it's just a continuation of the existing projects.
Y'all a second to look at that, and then let us know if you've got any questions. All right, I will entertain a motion.
Second.
Commissioner Gurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Blair,
Yes.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Ely, Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips,
Pass.
and Chairman Allen.
Yes, thank you. All right, we've got the school board reports. Trey, are you coming up? Who's coming up? Like I saw Mr. Spurlock. There he is. Hello there. How are you?
All right, if we can, we're going to start off with a couple of amendments. If we could take the general purpose, we got 2 amendments there, and then go to the centralized cafeteria amendment. That'd be all right?
Yeah, to
Madam Chairman?
do 1 and 2 together, yes.
All right. First of all, Fund 141, the general purpose school fund for 2019-2020 year-end cleanup budget. This cleanup budget amendment increases the 2019-2020 revenues by $2,599,257 and uses the $649,000 for the 2019-2020 expenditures. The largest of the expenditures is for additional laptop computers and online enrollment software, with some of the costs being reimbursed by next fiscal year from the CARES Act funds. Additional payroll line item increases are for accrued leave payouts and for long-term employees retiring at the fiscal year end. Motion to amend the net additional 2019-20 revenue by $2,599,257 and to increase the net expenditures by $649,000 as presented. General purpose school budget year-end unpaid student meal bad debt amendment. This is something we're not very proud of right here. In fact, this is something that has grown over the last 3 years, in which we end up having to take money out of our general purpose fund to fund this. But anyway, as we go look at this, it was originally had risen this year up to $235,242. However, due to some of the hard work of our cafeteria managers and some of our bookkeepers, we're able to get it down to $156,313. Now, that's way too much. Mr. Beaudry has created a committee. They met a couple of times. He's got some good information from the committee that we'll be addressing with our board come in our next board meeting. One of the things, we're not going to keep any child from getting fed. We are looking at how we are registering our kids as far as the free and reduced lunch, but that's not the biggest problem. About 600 or 60% of this debt is attributed to about 600 kids. Now, we're talking about 600 kids out of almost 48,000 kids. So we've drilled down, we've looked at the genesis of the issue, and Mr. Beaudry here, he's looked at that, and we're not going to keep any child from eating, but we're going to be looking at the parents. This is not sustainable. This is on the backs of our taxpayers. I think we'd all agree that we want our children to be fed. However, we need to make sure that if they are eligible to free and reduced lunch, they get on that program and they'll be fed. And if they're not eligible, we need to address how we can get this taken care of.
Spurlock, is this a particular age group, high school, middle school?
Typically, it's more in your middle and high, but there are some in elementary, but it's typically in your middle and high, correct? So, motion to approve these two amendments as presented.
Are there any questions about the two 141 accounts? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Roll, please.
Commissioner Cook?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Chairman Allen?
Yes, thank you. Okay, Mr. Spurlock.
Okay, the next one's Fund 143, the Centralized Cafeteria 2019-2020 Amendment. This is year-end cleanup amendment, adjust expenditure line items to true up non-payroll expenditures as well as small payroll line item adjustments in case of the fiscal year accrued leave payouts for full-time cafeteria and retirement terminations. Retirement/terminations. Motion to amend the 2019-20 Centralized Cafeteria Fund budget by adjusting expenditures by $179,000 as presented.
Any questions on that? I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
Second.
Thank you.
All right, next is our building program. Before
Mr. Spurlock, we have to vote. Give us just a
I'm sorry.
second.
Sorry about that.
Appreciate your enthusiasm. Give us just a second.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely? Yes. Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Cook?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Chairman Allen?
Yes, thank you. You can proceed.
All right, I'm going to go over the need, and I'm going to let Mr. Lee talk a little bit more about the project. But anyway, as you can look at the sheet that I passed out, this gives you Barfield, Buchanan, Christiana Elementary, and Rockville Elementary. These are the elementary schools that would be impacted by the Tan Oak Elementary School. You can see their capacity, their current enrollment, and the number of portables that each have. Now, I threw Barfield in there because we would, when the school is built, we would do a shift in a massive rezoning. The other one is the Laverne Middle School. We're currently sitting at a little over 1,200 kids. Its capacity is up to 114,000, and you can see the number of portables. Now I'm going to ask Mr. Lee to come up and go over the numbers as far as the projects are concerned.
Good evening. The first project tonight is the Tan Oaks Elementary. On Thursday, May 7th, County School Board Purchasing and Engineering and Construction received bids for the site work and construction of the elementary school and the off-site sewer construction for the Tan Oaks School Complex. All bids have been reviewed by the Engineering and Construction Department. Engineering and Construction recommends R.G. Anderson's bid at $41,602,000 for the site and the school. Williamson Construction's bid for the off-site sewer at $722,595. We're requesting funding at $49,707,595. This is exclusive of the architectural fees. So the breakdown for the project is R.G. Anderson at $41,602,000, Williams Construction at $755,595, CUD, which is our water line extension and improvements along Sledge Road, $850,000. Other construction-related contracts, engineering fees, soil materials, that sort of thing, $3 million. Fixture, furniture, and equipment, which is the outfit the school's $3,500,000. Bringing the total to $49,707,595. One thing I will tell you about this bid is $50 a square foot, building-wise, cheaper than we built John Coleman Elementary 4 years ago. The contracting market is hungry for some work. If there's any questions before I go on to Laverne Middle, I'll be glad to. Do y'all need to vote on them separately or together?
We'll ask that. I do have one question, though, before we proceed. You said it's exclusive of the architectural fees.
Yes, ma'am.
And so is that going to be an additional number that's going to be
It's
forthcoming?
$1,850,000, and if my number and Ms. Nolan's are, we were comparing notes in the back, it's $51,557,595.
Give me that number again, please.
$51,557,595.
And so is that what the number you need the motion to be for? No. Hang on, Lisa's coming.
The
Yeah.
$1,850,000
Yeah.
architectural fees have already been approved
Okay.
in the past.
And been funded?
No.
Not funded. Grab a
In
microphone.
the future issue in August.
Okay. But-
So it would, I guess technically it would need to be added, correct?
If you want to say this is how much the whole total project is, it's the $51,557,000.
Okay.
That's the cost of the entire project. But as
What-
you said, you've already
You've approved the
approved
$1,850,000.
the architectural fees. We just haven't borrowed for it yet.
Okay, so
But
we
if
don't
you
need,
wanted to wrap it all up in a nice bow.
no, I don't want any numbers reflected twice. I don't want it to
No,
look like
it
we're.
wouldn't be. That's
Right.
what I'm saying. It would
Okay.
have to be written, the resolution be written,
I
total
thought-
project being.
Yeah, I thought we had already approved the architect's fees, but I just know
did.
none of the rest of this happens till we pay the architect. So I just want to make sure we weren't going to come in later with a different number. I want to make sure we know what the number is.
Right.
Thank you. Yeah, that was my question. Commissioner Blair?
Mr. Spurlock, this is present numbers.
That's correct.
This doesn't take in consideration the 1,000-plus students overall that we're going to add this next school year. And this area, what is its growth rate? I don't know if that's.
That's one of our, especially for the Rockvale area. The Rockvale area, of course, Buchanan has been overcrowded for a long time. It's with maples growing back up and, growing in. And we're seeing an increase over at Whitworth Buchanan because the lady over there is doing a great job. But it's a good school system, good schools over there. So, that's going to continue to grow. The biggest thing is when I look at these numbers, we start getting into, 121% over capacity, or, at capacity, it's over 100%. Usually when you start hitting somewhere in double digits past 100, that's where your issues start coming in.
What other questions do you have for Mr. Spurlock? And do you want Trey to continue, or you want to take these separately? Mr. Coon? Okay. Very good. All right. Rapid fire. Let's hear your questions. What else do you want to know?
Madam Chairman, this is Jeff Phillips.
Yes. Go ahead, Jeff. Thank you.
I apologize for being late. My laptop is once again a little bit old and behind the times. Could I ask Lisa Nolan how we stand on revenue projections?
Yes.
And what it looks like for us to go to the bond market this fall?
Okay. Lisa, can you answer that for us?
Okay, Commissioner, you were asking about our revenue projections. The revenue in debt service for next year, we've reduced substantially the amount of interest that's gone in there, and as well as development tax. I mean, that's the other variable. So right now we're funded, I think, 80% of our appropriations. So when I speak, it's going to be more than just this number that they asked for, Commissioner. I know what's coming is also, was it Laverne Middle? So I'm bringing this up because that's to answer your question. My projection of the amount that we'd have to borrow for city schools plus the county general projects, I'm at about $101 million total right now. So if you figure, just easy figuring, about $70,000 debt service for every $1 million borrowed, say $7 million. additional debt service. I've got things for the commissioners. Again, I've also included some general projects that we've approved and haven't funded yet. So it will be okay for next year. If we added 4, 5, 6 million additional debt, we would borrow around August, September is the time frame. We borrowed $101 million in 2016, so I kind of looked at that debt service to kind of judge what we would get this year. So we'd be okay next year, and actually if we don't borrow anything else for the following year would be okay. But it's always the question, what are we going to be, and what is the school bringing after this project? That's where things will get a little issue. So next year, 2021, okay, depending on what comes forward for the school board after that, because I can't think of any more general capital projects than what we have on board. It's in these numbers, then,
But then what would that number be, Lisa? If nothing else comes forward and we know we're going to have to service this debt that year 3, whatever year it follows, what is that number?
$7 million. I mean, that's why $7 additional million of debt service.
You and I talked about what that translates into pennies for tax rate. Was it 9 cents?
Real easy. We're nearly $1 million on the tax, so
okay. 7 cents. Okay. Very good. All right. What other questions do you have for Lisa? Commissioner Gurley?
I don't have any questions for Ms. Nolan. I did want to make a comment or two, and maybe I can be enlightened by Director Spurlock.
Sure.
But what concerns me is not, I think, right now we're kind of a little thing, we're not hurting real bad here in Rutherford County. However, the state as a whole, which is where schools get a hunk of their money from, the state, we've already seen things cut that were proposed back in January and February that are cut out of the final budget because the state didn't think they could fund them. I don't think we've seen the total effect of this pandemic on business. I think that a lot of storefronts, we're seeing businesses announce that they're closing. We get a lot of our revenue, from that. If it close, and it's going to hurt. I really don't think that we're at the peak of our fiscal consequences right now. I think that's coming maybe 6 months down the road. So I try to look at the county's money the same way I look at my own money. Should I go out here, because I have the borrowing capacity right now, should I go out here and commit to a large borrow when I don't know for sure whether I'm going to have the revenues to service that? I think it's into the coming year, not this year, immediate fiscal year, but the next fiscal year that we start getting into some serious issues over funding our debt. Our debt's standing right now, I think, around $500 million, and that's a lot of debt. That is a lot of debt. Would you care to equate that out if we had to raise the taxes to pay that off? I think we would all probably be out here somewhere or another suffering from something or another if we raise taxes at that point. For the last 5 years I've been on this committee, and I brought up with the prior director and I brought up with our current director, let's look at alternatives. Let's look at other ways other than building buildings. Or we'll never get away from building buildings. That's a fact. But how can we slow the rate of building new capital facilities?
Put a moratorium on growth.
You what?
Put a moratorium on growth.
put a moratorium on growth.
Which you can't do.
We can't do. But I think there are other alternatives. I mean, the virtual, you just announced a 100-student virtual thing. We need to embrace technology in a big way.
I agree, but
that needs to be done in a big way. We need to look. Wilson County is being forced to implement a dual schedule. Why? Because they lost 2 schools in a matter of 5 minutes in a tornado a few months ago.
And they got waivers for that because they don't have buildings. Now we have buildings. We couldn't get waivers for it. I hear what you're saying, and
Mr.
I do
Spurlock?
agree with you.
I would like for you to, for a lot of people who don't know, I would like for you to talk a little bit about the virtual academy. And I know we're kind of trying to start small and potentially grow that. And then I know you've also got a committee that's looking at some different ideas. So if you'll talk about all of those.
Absolutely. A virtual academy is not going to be a school that will have, if we hit 100, we're doing well. For our size, as we grow, we could hit 100. But in order to do it with fidelity, it's not for everyone. We do know it is for some that want to have issues in school, whether it be something medically or socially, emotionally, or just trying to speed up the process. That will take care of 100. Unfortunately, that's 900 more that'll be back waiting to replace those 100 that we lose. And I do hear you, and I just had a conversation, if you bear with me a little bit, with a board member, Terry Hodge, who's been on the board for 16 years. He called me right before I left to come over here, and he said in 2008 that the county commission requested from the Murfreesboro government to waive their portion of the money from the bond, the tax bond. Now, I think it failed. I want to repeat that. He didn't say it was passed, but he was looking at ways that we could perhaps save money on that part. Now, as I looked at it, and I think we're talking about somewhere around $8 million. Now, that's in the grand scheme of things. It may not sound a lot like money, but it's $8 million. Now, I've read the newspaper like you guys have read, and the mayor said he's not building any more schools anytime soon. And, and I'm just thinking that schools that we have within the Murfreesboro city limits, their kids go there also, and their taxpayers of Murfreesboro also pay tax for the county taxes. So that's just something to throw out there. Now, we do know that prior to this pandemic, and I'm going to be more positive. I'm going to be honest, I'm going to be more positive with this. I think this economy is going to pick up. I'm confident the economy is going to pick up. I think that we've seen that it's going to impact some, and it has a negative impact some, but I think it's for some, we're going to understand that we're going to get it and we're going to get over it. When I looked at all the data that I received from the State Department of the Health Department, one of the things I see is some people get it more than once. And we just heard the lady from the Health Department talk about probable cases. If you've been in close proximity with someone who had COVID and you're exhibiting symptoms of COVID, they lump you into having COVID. And I think that's that's a pretty fair statement there. But I'm wondering how many of those probables are actually a false negative. So my thing is I hear you, Commissioner, I do hear you, and believe me, there are things we were working on multi-track prior to this shutdown. We'd had several meetings over that. But I go back to explain and making sure we understand even on that. You're right. We're not going to have to build buildings, but the operational costs will go up substantially. And probably over time, you're right. It would pay for itself instead of building buildings. But that's some of the things we'd probably be facing. One of the things we've looked at in opening schools, we've been on that since early May. If we go to anything other than a traditional with options of our parents to let them do distance learning, not virtual school, but distance learning, if we go to anything other than that, we would end up adding $1 million a month to our transportation. That's just for our transportation. If we went to the hybrid or we went to the multi-track, we would end up having to pay for more routes. We'd have to find some bus drivers first, and then the expenditures would go up. So I do hear you. I really do hear what you're saying. This is a lot of money. Quite frankly, it's a huge amount of money. And I think, Ms. Nolan talked about if we did it this year, then we would probably need at least 2 years of buffer, is what I'm hearing, I think, before we come back to build. 1 year? Okay, I said 2 years. We actually have been 2 years, I think, since we actually were building an addition to Rock Springs Elementary, so I'm corrected there. So my thing is, I hear you. I mean, I understand. I'm a taxpayer also, and I do understand what you're saying. And I know it's been a trying time as far as finances are concerned. I don't know what the state's going to look like. Quite frankly, I think things are opening up a little bit more. We are seeing cases go up. I mean, there's more going on than there are more recovering. Even today, the gap closed a little bit, but there was more coming on than they were recovering. I think when we look at that, we got to look at the hospitalization. I think that she was spot on about that. It's more to do with hospitalization. That's the whole thing about flattening the curve. Flattening the curve is not about reducing the number of outbreaks. It's about reducing the number of hospitalizations. So all this rolls back into what Commissioner Blair talked about. There's going to be thousands sitting there waiting on us when schools open up. I mean, it hasn't changed in the last 5 or 6 years, and I don't anticipate changing anytime soon.
And Mr. Spurlock, I'd forgotten what the number is, but I know there is a pretty hefty financial penalty on the student-teacher ratio if you aren't compliant with that. If we don't find a way to manage these kids, it almost pays for a teacher, so they discourage that. I mean, I'm trying to think through the consequences.
It's about 300,000, but I think we could the managing the teacher-pupil ratio is where you put them. Right. I know most of our schools on the northern end of the county, and of course these right here are they're maxed out. We've got plenty of teachers that are using that once used to be locker rooms. We got some that used libraries that have been cut in half. We've gone around and really maximized our space. Just here recently, we repurposed I think eight rooms for next year. That when we sent the pre-K, 12 rooms. We purposed 12 rooms in different schools when we repurposed the John Coleman Annex and put our pre-K down there. I mean, there's a lot of things we've been doing. We rezoned some over at Siegel Middle and sent some to Oakland Middle. There's some things that are still in the back of our pocket, but in terms of these schools right here, I mean, it's just, they're bursting at the seams.
And before I open it up for more questions, there is one piece of information that was shared with me this morning at Planning Commission that echoes your optimism. This was shared from the real estate community through a lender, and they said that this week had the highest buyer lending applications in 11 years. That was stunning to me because I don't share that. I've not experienced that personal optimism. I mean, I love it. I love that that's the thinking, but I was stunned by that. And then the other thing was that home values in Rutherford County are up 36% on average from just 5 years ago and 7% over the past year. So those two economic indicators alone just echo the fact that people are coming to Rutherford County. This problem's not going to go away. So it's really the challenge is on all of us to figure out how do we manage it. Mayor, you had something?
Well, with the recent vote last week by Metro Council of 35%, yes. Wilson and Rutherford, it's coming.
Yes.
We need to be prepared.
The other thing, he's talking about the growth. I get the numbers from the city of Murfreesboro and the county and Smyrna and Laverne. Residential building permits have climbed 20% per month every month so far this year, over last year. And last year was a record for Rutherford County, and they're up an average of 20% per month over last year's record numbers throughout the county. So it's not an isolated growth. It's not an isolated thing. It's happening all over.
Commissioner Blair?
We are required to educate our children, and you can see by the percentage of overcapacity that they have come, and they appear to be continuing to come. And as Mr. Spurlock has said, they have repurposed room after room. They're utilizing spaces that were never intended for classroom space. And I don't know what else we do. I certainly am. We have 155 trailer classrooms presently, and I certainly don't want to add to that population because they're already going to be moved to a more capacity school at some point in time. And if the dike is starting to break, even if you can't afford to fix it, you find a way to afford to fix it. And we're talking about our children here and giving them the best opportunity that we can avail them. And society depends on public schools to make our, to create our best citizens. I just don't see how we can do anything but continue to provide classrooms.
I would say also Murfreesboro City, thank them for this past year, because if Salem hadn't opened up, we would have been well over capacity at Barfield.
I have a question on dollars. The $41,600,000, how does that compare to the last elementary we built, Mr. Lee?
The actual cost for the building itself was a little over $29 million, and that was $50 a square foot cheaper than John Coleman Elementary, which was built 3 years ago.
How about Rocky Fork?
Rocky Fork was more expensive than John Coleman by about $20 a square foot. So it would be $70 less than Rocky Fork Elementary.
This school is the same size as Rocky Fork or bigger?
Yes, sir. They're within 6,000 square feet of each other.
And this school is cheaper than Rocky Fork?
Yes, sir. And it's the exact same contractor.
I have no problem. The contractor built 2 elementary and middle behind my house and seemed to do a really great job with everything they did back there. Having to live with them for about a year, they were pretty good neighbors. So it's not the contractor that I have any problem with.
What other questions do you have for Mr. Spurlock or Mr. Lee? Carol?
On Lake Road, the Ridge, they're building something like 300 houses in that. When I was on the Planning Commission in 88 and 89, it was supposed to have been 5-acre lots. I don't think they're even on a half-acre, the way it looks. Now, that's going into Rock Springs Elementary. We have older children in it too, but that's going to be this year children coming into, and we're putting the addition on, which won't be big enough.
We're out the portables. We're emptying the portables.
We had 3 portables there. They've already been relocated to Rockville Middle. There's also coming, and I don't know how the Laverne Planning Commission is going to look at it, but the McFarland property that's on the corner of Blair Road and Rock Springs, 652 homes. They're coming to us too.
Some of these schools is going to have a little taste of what we had in 1990. We had 30 portables at Laverne Elementary. Not even fire checked. I want them all checked for through the fire department.
More discussion? Any other questions?
Madam Chairman, this is Jeff Phillips again.
Yes, sir.
I still would like to ask Ms. Nolan to give us some kind of an indication as to what this means to property tax rates. What does it mean to property taxes? Are we going to have to raise property taxes this year to pay for this building?
Yeah, she answered that for us, and her answer was no. There's no tax increase the first year. There's potentially a 7-cent tax increase subsequent year. She's give or take. Yeah. She's coming to the microphone, Jeff.
I guess I wanted to go back because it was asking about the economy and everything. and I didn't touch on it because sales tax does not go into debt service, but it kind of follows what you had. Our sales tax number, and I'm comparing what we got in May of 2000 compared to May of 2019, and we were 3% higher. Now that's the activity that was in March. When March we were shut down half the month. We still gained 3%. We did have our June revenue in, which was the April sales activity. So the number that I'm giving you is all the governments in the county, and we dropped 0.6%, which I thought that definitely back when we were a month earlier, and I was talking to Doug, it's like, what do you project? Is it 10% less? Is it 20% less? So I was very excited to see that it only dropped 0.6.
And do we think that buffer is from the pickup from the internet tax?
I believe that.
We haven't tracked it back to that, but that is a logical explanation.
I think that. Well, I think it's internet. I think it's when your stores are closed.
Lowe's and Home Depot.
And people are, the Amazon trucks and all that coming in. People are ordering online. I mean, I think
the mayor said Lowe's and Home Depot. He's exactly right.
Home and Lowe's. Yes, yeah. I mean those are still going and blowing. So
They bought stock in Lowe's.
That was my positive, Commissioner.
Commissioner Phillips, did that answer your question?
And I would say not a property tax increase for next year. I'm not saying that. I'm saying we don't need one. But depending on what the schools bring the following year, that will need to be funded in 21, 22, you may have a problem.
Was that clear, Jeff? Do you need more information?
No, I'm still just nervous, Madam Chairman, as it relates to the economy and where it's going. I still don't think that we know. We have a good idea. I remember a few years ago when Mayor Burgess was in office, asked the school board, we need a year to catch our breath, and we didn't get that year. We went ahead and funded school, and that's my suggestion this year is let's hold off. Let's wait a year. Let's see where we are this time next year. So that's what I'm asking. Let's take a year off. I think the taxpayers are nervous about funding new brick and mortar at this particular time. At least that's the information that is coming to me. So once again, I'm not challenging the need. What I am is challenging what is an unknown for at least this commissioner, and it just makes me nervous. If we build a school, and this time next year revenues are way down, and we're going to have to make cuts somewhere, how do we make those cuts if we built new buildings? And it's a concern that I've got, and it's still just in my mind it's guesswork. So I'm concerned about it.
Very good. Thank you. Commissioner Blair?
When do we have to make our request to the bond market for construction?
August.
Lisa?
End of August.
End of August for the
So the question is, when would we go to the bond market? When do we need to make that decision? All the projects are mostly funded through the capital outlay note that bought us some time that we borrowed in between. So, I mean, I think we're fine. But I guess to me the question is to them, when is the date that you need? Otherwise, you're pushed into the following year to open.
Monday. Seriously, a week from today. If I don't have approval from you guys this week, this project's dead. And I'm not. It takes 17 months to build a middle school, and it takes 13 and a half to build an elementary, and I'm fixing to ask to do it in 12. Starting July 1, I have to be through by July 15th to move in furniture to open a school. That's 12 months. The contractors agreed that they can hold their price and that they can meet the cutting a month off the schedule to complete it by July 15th of next year. It's either fund or don't fund.
Okay, so Trey, just to answer Commissioner Blair and then also Commissioner Phillips' concern, play out for us the what if. What happens if we don't do this? Tell me how you're going to manage these bodies, where they're going to go. How are you going to do it?
Well, Buchanan, I can't put any more portables there. We're maxed out portable-wise at Buchanan. Christiana Elementary, we took 2 in there last year. I don't know that I can get another one in there. Laverne Middle, I can tell you, I took another one last year. They have 13. There's no place for another portable at Laverne Middle. And I can tell you they're coming at Laverne Middle. Rockville Elementary, I could maybe get one more in there based on the locations and where they are. So the only way to handle growth if we don't build at these schools is portables. We've also got other schools that are getting to that point. What we do as we open a school and rezone, if you look at 3, 6, 12, 13, 17, there's 23 portables listed on the page that Mr. Spurlock gave you. Mr. Sullivan told me yesterday he's got 38 requests for portables across the county. I'll take all 23 of these. There's 23 that will become available next year if we build. I got 38 requests this year. I'm a year behind with getting the need where the request is. And if you want to go see, Commissioner, go to Stewart's Creek Elementary. We've taken every closet. We've taken every available space. Their pre-K playroom, they no longer have pre-K, so that we could take their playroom and cut it in half. So that now we have 2 kindergarten classrooms there. They're out, they got 3 growth positions and I don't have rooms for them. Capital Projects gave me a double trailer. July 1, I'm ordering a double trailer and it's going to Stewart's Creek Elementary. I need 3 rooms there, but I'm only going to have 2. So these schools being built is my dominoes, or our dominoes, because we're leapfrogging portables. Every time we rezone, as soon as somebody raises their hand, we've got more requests than we have portables to move. We didn't build a new school last year. We were saying skip a year. Well, we did skip a year. So we're even further down the road this year than normal when we build a school. So we're going to be 2 years between schools with only 3 portables, and those 3 portables came from Rock Springs Elementary. We'll do what we always do. We'll find another room. We did it at Blackman. We'll have to put 2 classes in the auditorium in a middle school. There'll be one in the front right corner and one in the back left corner. And we have them in the cafeteria till we start serving lunch. And then we'll start having them in the gym. We'll do what we're presently doing. I'm sorry, I rambled too long.
Yeah, you're right.
Commissioner Blair.
The great unknown, I think, was just answered by Ms. Nolan with us thinking the sales tax were going to be 10 to 20% down, and it actually turned out to be only 0.6%, which tells me that there's some resiliency and the economy is coming back. We also know that the children are coming, and I've been in business for a number of years myself, and 2008 was certainly challenging for all of us, and we survived that. We came back stronger than ever, and I just don't see how we can take the chance of shortchanging our children. So I hate it, but I think we just have to build. We've got to have classroom for our children.
Commissioner Blair, someone's trying to get to you there.
Yeah.
No, your foot was hitting the plug.
Okay.
Foot kept on hitting the plug.
For those who couldn't see, his lamp is cutting off and on, so we thought there was some communication going on there. Yeah, there you go.
Piggyback on what the commissioner said there too, and these are numbers here are going to change. They're going to get more. So before any school, if we fund it before any school, this is going to go up. I mean, this is just what, as of today, we didn't put any new numbers in.
All right, any more discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Is there a second? All right, looks like the motion dies for lack of a second. Guess we're going to be buying portables. All right, let's hear number 2, Laverne Middle.
Laverne Middle, Thursday, May 14th, Purchase and Engineering received the bids for the construction of addition to Laverne Middle. Robert S. Biskins bid $13,273,640. Low bid, we're requesting $16,173,640, and that's without architectural fees. Robert S. Biskin, $13,273,640. Construction-related contracts at $1,500,000, FF&E at $1,400,000, for a total of $16,173,640.
What questions do you have about this? Any discussion?
The Rock Springs Elementary addition will be completed for this coming,
Yes, sir.
but my guess is with the growth in Laverne right now, that's going to probably be pretty full, pretty much.
I'm sorry.
Well, what do you project?
Yeah, they'll be a way over capacity with the growth that's coming in. They're already close to 1,200.
You will be doing a rezoning, I guess, or something?
Laverne Middle? Well, we're going to rezone them.
No, not for Laverne Middle, but for Rock Springs Elementary or...
Elementary, absolutely. If we see that it's, when that comes in, we'll rezone. I don't know where we'll rezone them to because the other elementary schools around them are at capacity.
Full too.
Yeah. There's only one school really in our system that has a little bit of capacity, not much, and that's Kittrell. If, we could, I don't know about that traveling from Laverne to Kittrell.
Well, I think the problem with the Kittrell area, there's no sewer, and a lot of the property is unperkable, so the growth is limited. And as Commissioner Cook pointed out, they're doing, and the subdivision she mentioned, the same thing they're doing on the hill above me, that at one point in time I thought was unbuildable, but it's been terraced off, cut down. Cross on the other side of Rocky Fork, Amelville, I can't tell you how many dump truck loads of rock have gone down Morton Lane in the last 2 months. Probably 400 to 500 dump trucks full of rock. Cut that hill down, building on it. There's here about a year ago there were roughly 1,000 homes platted out within a mile, or within a half mile of my house, and that is kind of scary. I've spoken several times at the town of Smyrna meetings against the high density 5-foot spacing building. It's totally changing the character of Smyrna from the town that I lived in as a kid, but that seems to be the way we're going, is to build houses as close packed as you can build them, and that's probably not going to stop. And as the mayor said, with the 34% tax increase in Davidson County, we're probably going to get. I guess, once again, my fear is the unknown right now. And maybe I shouldn't have that much fear, but I really don't think we've peaked out at as far as what's going to happen to the economy. Yeah, I mean, things look pretty good right now. Homes are selling. One of the reasons they're selling is interest rates. I talked to my banker this morning. I said, "What are CDs running?" 0. So interest rates are at as low as they can get. Prime is 0 or negative. So if you're buying something and you've got to borrow the money, that's a good time to do it as a young couple or something. But yeah,
I hear you.
I've said enough.
Commissioner, I hear you. You know what my fear is? The known. There's going to be over 1,000 students coming in. And we've always done it. We'll do our best and just let our constituents know that we're trying to stand up for your children. We know this is challenging times, and we will do the best we can to make sure the environment that we are able to put them in is safe, and we'll appreciate your vote of confidence for us.
Madam Chairman, this is Jeff Phillips.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
I'd much rather see us add on than to build new buildings at this point in time. And with that being said, I move to approve.
Very good. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Did you have something to add, Commissioner Blair?
This is a question for the entire system. Without the approval of that elementary school, what would be your game plan as far as portables? How much will you have to increase the inventory? We're already 155. How many more will you need just to meet this student base that's coming, and you're already at over capacity at so many schools?
And that's the thing we're talking about, not this coming school year, but we're talking the next school year. So between that time, we're going to be in need of, if we don't add, what I'm saying is, if we were approved now, that school would not open until 2021, 2022. By that time, you would have 2 classes coming in. I'll be honest with you on that one. I don't purchase it. We'd have no choice but to purchase portable.
By not building the school, you're looking at 23 right off the bat. They're 100. I just got the new prices today. They're 104,000 apiece.
Any more discussion? Yes, and Commissioner Gurley? No? Okay. All right. We've got a motion on the floor to approve, and we've got a second. If you all are ready for a vote, I'll have Rachel call the roll.
Would you clarify that motion again?
It was the motion to approve the Laverne Middle Edition.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner Cook?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely? Yes. Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Chairman Allen?
Yes. Thank you.
Mr. Spurlock? Yes, ma'am. Since we're having trouble getting our buildings and housing the students, up above me, they have built 8 warehouses. So maybe we have to rent a warehouse.
You know what? Hamilton County, I think, was looking at purchasing an old mall, I guess.
And I'm halfway serious about it. And
Yeah.
I mean, they're putting them up overnight.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And I don't know what the warehouses cost, but I know one's a half a mile long.
Sure.
So
Check it. Do that. All right. Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you. Is there any other business to come for this committee? All right, typically our July meeting is tentative. If there's no business from the school board, we will cancel it. If there is business that needs to be taken care of, then we'll have it. So keep it on your calendar for now. But if they don't have any business for us, then we will send out notification and we'll cancel the July meeting. So thank you all very much. We stand adjourned.